Good morning. I'm coming to you live from the real estate, Lake Ozark Real Estate of the Art studio. Phone in at your pleasure, 573-746-8020. Send emails to live@damradio.com or to me personally at Samuel T at internationalflavor.com. Samuel T at Civic Outlaws.com and Samuel T at modernlawecosystems.com. Actually, there's no S on the end. modernlaweecosystem.com. We are very busy in that regard. Very, very busy. We are, as Civic Outlaws is the primary driver of all this. That is our charitable organization. And we go we attack government overreach. That is what we do. Our websites are under development, and I'm probably discussing it too early, but I'm excited about it. And so I'm kind of like, Christmas, and you got to open your gifts at like noon on Christmas Eve instead of you get one gift. When I was a kid, we always got one gift. Well, you know what? That's not even true. When I was a kid, it was a madhouse. I'm talking about when I had kids and what we did on Christmas. I grew up in a family with 11 children, and my best memories of Christmas are a house in Utah. I lived in Utah. We had a big side yard. We all, where we would do 3-on-3 baseball, all in the family. We'd do 3-on-3 football. There were about 6 of us out of the 11 always ready to go, and we had groups of children. So my poor mother, she had a child every year for like 4 or 5 years. She'd take a couple-year break, 3, 4 years, and then she'd have 3, 4 more, and then she did it again, and then the last one's kind of dribbled in. So we have a various age bands, if you want to call it. So what we would do, there were 6 brothers, actually 7, but one of them was so smart, he would just sit in the middle of the field and meditate and do weird chanting. I remember him sitting in the middle of the floor or the football field with his knees crossed. And that's Clifford Michael Trapp the third. He was one of the smartest people on the planet. He was just an extremely smart guy, and so smart that he skipped a couple of grades, and so smart that he finished college way back when. He became a computer guy that would sit in his closet. I had visions of my oldest brother sitting in a closet doing what he loved best and power thinking over everyone else, because he really was an intelligent guy, and he had 5 or 6 intelligent children, and a very intelligent wife. He provided my mother with 5 or 6 grandchildren. I don't remember, but my mom's got somewhere in the neighborhood of 90 grandchildren and 100 something great grandchildren. I don't know. She knows the number. I can't keep track, and she sells everybody's stuff. And we see each other from time to time, and we love it when we do, but we don't really get to all that often, and we certainly don't. Unfortunately, the only time we get together, all of us, is when we're forced, and somebody is at a death or something like that, which is a horrible time. And that's really the last time we all got together, when my oldest brother passed away several years ago. Unfortunately, and as we get older, those things are there. But he was one of the most interesting characters around. Anyway, I got a little bit sidetracked from where I was going, but growing up was fun. We would have those Christmas memories that I remember from that house, and the madhouse that Christmas was on the mornings in there, where it wasn't my ex-wife, God love her, she's a wonderful person. She had this thing when our kids were young, you opened one gift at a time, and everybody oohed and awed over that gift, and then you went on to the next one, and somebody did it. And but when I was a kid, it was a madhouse. I'm not sure that would be like that. And Chris, my dad did, for having as many kids he did and for as poor as we made him, he did pretty well for us. My mom never worked, and I remember Christmases that were being pretty much a joy as a young child, and just tearing stuff apart, and it's easy to please kids too, and making Christmas a good thing for us was a very big deal, growing up as we did with so many children, and we did have so much fun. And anyway, I encourage you to do that for your families, and keep that stuff going if you do it. And Christmas time is here. And I've been listening to a lot of Christmas. I am going to get back to my topic on my topic for today is Civic Outlaws in modern law ecosystems, which we're going to get to, and I'm going to explain to you kind of the founding speech on New Year's Eve, I suppose. And I don't really have any plans for New Year's. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. I might go somewhere, I might not. I'm not. Over the last 5 years, I've gone out of the country and gone other places and spent time in other places. This year, I was supposed to be in St. Petersburg, Russia. And I want to see so badly a Russian New Year, and I want to go, but timing is off and it's not working. I'm going to have to go pretty soon because my visa to Russia expires. I found out February the 28th, and so sometime in the next 2 months I'm going, and I'm gonna take a week and I'm gonna go. I want to see Russia in the winter, and probably 10 days I'll go. I'll try to get something long going on and figure that out, but I'm gonna do it. And I'm trying to get to St. Petersburg, and I want to do it in the winter, and I want to just wander around to some of the Hermitage up there and see some other stuff, take a train maybe somewhere else in the areas and see what we can do. Anyway, I'm really babbling today. I'm on a roll. He's like butter, friends and neighbors. He is on a roll. Get it? That was humor, and I really don't have all that much humor. But we're gonna speak about. I've really gone all over the map, haven't I? Maybe somebody will call and narrow me down in my focus. But I think that the new year is going to be fantastic. When we talk about Christmas and we talk about New Year's, I wonder, one of the most interesting things for people, and this is what I wanted to experience, and I'm going to have to experience it next year now, I think, is New Year's, Christmas, all of those things are the opposite. And a lot of people don't realize it, but they are the opposite of what we have in the United States. And I've said this before, we start a Christmas season, and Christmas comes first. And Christmas is on same time every year. It's 25th. Doesn't matter what week it is, nothing like that, or what day of the week it is. It's just Christmas. And Christmas goes through, but we started basically at Thanksgiving, and we have an entire, December. You ain't getting nothing done. I mean, there's no work going on in December. Nobody's getting it. It's not true. I mean, people have to work and stuff, but things are different. Everybody, of course, enjoys that time of year, or most of us enjoy that time of year. I bitch about it a lot. I bah humbug. I Scrooge it a lot, but I love Scrooge the movie. I love the 1958 version. I have my own little Christmas rituals that I like to do. Most of them are just for me. I like hanging out with family. This year I got to go to Wyoming to my son's house over Christmas, and took another son and his family with me. It was a good time, and it was quick, a lot of quick time to get back, and that's where I was last week, and we didn't do show. Anyway, Christmas is the opposite in Pravoslavianskia, Russian Orthodox, the people who are, or Eastern Orthodox, whatever you want to call it, they are a little bit different. They have a different calendar. And that calendar celebrates Christmas on the 7th of January. And so they have a 7-day break between New Year's and Christmas as well, but it's the opposite. Right? So New Year's starts their season. And God, I would love to be there. It's going on right freaking now, basically, the celebrations where people are. And Russians, they say, or the Russian country, they're not all Russian in Russia, but in the country of Russia, they celebrate things like, I remember being over there and driving in a car. I think I was in an Uber, and we were driving down the road, and it was, we were with friends. Whatever. We were driving down the road, and it was Victory Day, May the 8th. and it was the day that they celebrate the defeat of Nazism. And it was 10 o'clock at night, 9:30. We were going out to a late dinner, going out for drinks and whatnot. And swear to God, middle of the road, Nabrezhny Chelny is where we were. And in Nabrezhny Chelny, which is a decent-sized city, I don't remember the names, but it's east of Kazan, probably an hour, maybe 100 miles, I don't know. And it's a good-sized city. And at nighttime, we're out driving. So we're driving. Everything shut down when the fireworks started running, and I mean that everything. The cars stopped in the middle of the road. Everybody stopped. Everybody got out of their cars and stood there and watched the fireworks and celebrated the fact that they defeated Nazism 78 years earlier, however many years ago this was. And but they celebrate. They are celebrating. They are very thoughtful. I hate to lump people all together in the same group, but they're very emotional people. They are very centered people. Very a lot of us. We're centered. We have beliefs. We have core beliefs that you aren't gonna interfere with. You're not gonna do it, and they have them in Russia too. And they have core beliefs, and they're the same as ours, friends and neighbors. They are the same. And they get out of their cars, and they take a moment of silence, and they celebrate the fact that they exist, for God's sake, because they would not exist but for the sacrifice of their 26 million people that defeated Nazism way back when. And if that doesn't get you somewhat emotional, it freaking should. And I tell you what, I want to experience a New Year's celebration in the way that you can experience the 76 or 80. It was 80 this last year, and I didn't get to see it. I wasn't there. But I was in Russia in September, and, no holidays going on, unfortunately. But I need to get back there, and I need to see these celebrations because it's the same as us, people. And they're good people, and they are thoughtful people. And I think it's important that people realize that, especially with the New Year's coming up. Tonight's the night we celebrate, and it has nothing to do with anything except it's a personal holiday for trying to make yourself better for the coming year. I'm very... I think that 2025 went on. Is there crap and shit in my life? There sure is. And there's a lot of junk. But you know what? There's a lot of positive in the world, too. There's a ton of positive. And that positive is where the focus needs to be. And I think that the Russians, for the most part, the people. Let's skip governments. Let's skip disputes between people that are trying to manage their nation. Skip that for a minute and get to just people, which is where you are in the Christmas holidays and the New Year's holiday anyway. That is where you should be, is celebrating your life, your people. What is your goal for 2026? What are you gonna do in 2026? I don't like the New Year's resolution crap. I think it ought to be a life resolution, and it ought to go every day. And I try that, but I fail miserably a lot. And but I tell you what, staying positive is somewhat difficult in a world that has so much shit in it. And so much crap, and people attacking each other and doing nasty, nasty things to each other. And that includes my first topic. And sorry to rant about that for a little bit. Seems like I've ranted about it for a little while and kind of got off on the ethereal stuff. But I tell you what, ethereal, whoever wants to, sometimes it's different. Udarenia is the word stress in Russia, and I had a Russian teacher who was a great guy. His name was Tenenbaum, and Rudolph Tannenbaum, freaking awesome name. And Rudolph Tannenbaum in my class, I'm telling stories today. Rudolph Tannenbaum in my class learning Russian would say, he called us comrade. And in Russian, the word comrade Tavarish, and my name was Trap, and so he picked a name of a famous author for me, and he called me Trapinin. And so my name was Stepan, not Sam, and not Samuel. I was Stepan, and Stepan was my name, and my last name was not Trap, it was Trapinin. And so I was Stepan Trapinin, and he was Rudolf Rudolfovich Tannenbaum. But he was really, he changed his last name when he came to America because his last name in Russian is Yolkin, because Tannenbaum means Christmas tree. And Yolka is the same thing. It's a Christmas tree. It's a pine, huge pine tree, Yolka. And so his last name was Yolkin. And he changed it to Tannenbaum because his roots were German, as well. But he came from Russia. Anyway, I really am babbling today, but telling personal stories. But I have a lot of personal stories, And Rudolf Tannenbaum would sit in that class, and he would call me Tavarish Trapinin. And he, because Samuel, Comrade Trap, he'd point a stick at you and go, Comrade Trap, tell me this word. And you'd say the word, and he'd go, the stress, the udarenia. And I'd say the word, and you don't get the joke if you don't speak Russian, but it's like taking the word, I would take the word syllable, and I'd go syllable, or and say the word is syllable. And I would do that in Russian too, and it would drive him crazy, but he was very focused on making sure we knew stuff. And the word for udarenia is stress, the emphasis on a word, the emphasis. It'd be like saying that put the emphasis on the wrong syllable. And it'd be a lot of fun to screw around with him like that, and which I did constantly. And he would give me a word to say it, and I'd say whatever the word, and put the stress in the wrong spot, and he'd go Tavarish Trapinin, udarenia, which is the word stress, and I'd say udarenia. He'd say no, udarenia, no, udarenia. And that was my way of having fun in that year-long class where we learned very in-depth knowledge of Russia, of Russian, and I very much appreciate those days, and it's giving me a basis and a foundation for life that's maybe a little bit different than everybody's basis and foundation for life in America. But it just, I'm going to take a 2-minute silence break. I got to clear my throat, and I don't want to be rude on the air. Hang on one second. All right, friends and neighbors, I've cleared my throat, and we are back. Anyway, sorry about that, too. Because I was on a roll, I needed to interrupt myself anyway, clear my throat. Anyway, it's the time of season, and for all of those things, for joy, for memory, for reminding you that life really is a good thing. And I have plenty of great freaking stories of travel, of I don't know, conflict, of everything. And I've done conflict as an attorney, and I practiced law in Lake Ozark in the area. In the area of here, I practiced law in central Missouri for 14 years. I have a targeting story where I was targeted by bad actors from the government, and I've told that story before. It is out here on my webpage. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to tell that entire story here coming up after the first of the year. I'm going to tell my story one more time. And I'm going to say, what went on and why and how. And I'm going to talk to you about the organization that we have built. And we're still in building process, but it's life kind of sucks sometimes. And I think that right now, Donald Trump, this is going to sound weird, to put this connection together, but Donald Trump has, if anything, has made it acceptable. Let's call it that. For his greatest accomplishment, in my humble view, is making it possible and believable to attack the bad actors in government everywhere, and to be more vocal about it. Everybody knows that on my show I focus on morons like, Ursula von der Leyen and that idiot Kaja Kallas, that these people are destroying the European community and destroying what they should be doing. And, I see that President Trump is being stuck in that same old churn of destruction that is called the military-industrial complex. And we are victims of that. The normal people who celebrate Christmases the way that I have told you and talk about personal New Year's benefits and keep those. Why don't governments have those sorts of things? The U.S. government absolutely does not. They can't work together, to build a freaking high-speed rail train that goes across the country. We couldn't build that. Why? Because we got assholes leading us. We got morons leading us, just like everywhere else. Corruption all over Ukraine. There's 2 more stories that came up about that I would, share with you all the time. But I rail about this stuff a lot. And trust me, I rail about the right things. I want to share with you, and I hope to get to it today. I talked with another person who has a charity that was a fairly big realtor in this area that I remember from ages ago, and I ran into her breakfast here in the Lake Ozark area. And totally off the wall, I saw her, she saw me, we were both alone, and I joined her. And it was very interesting. Hadn't seen her in years. She hadn't seen me in years, and we sat and we had a good conversation about her charity and what she is doing. And I think it's mainly focused in the Florida area, and I've wanted to get her on and talk about what she is doing and talk about what I am doing with modern law ecosystem and with civicoutlaws.com. Now, those sites are under development and they're being built. And I've already been sent a letter from the Missouri bar about coming after me for that shit. And pardon my French, and more power to them. You know what? I am tired. I am done being a subhuman. I'm not doing it anymore. Screw them. Do I have shit in my life? I sure as hell do. And some of it I'm proud of, the fact that, if someone's coming after me for stuff, they stole my life, for God's sake. And it was the government that stole my life. I've written a book, that I'm 80,000 words into a 120,000 word book, and I'm almost done. And it is, I want to finish that book, but you know how hard that is. And you try to find time for it to get it done, and I'm almost done. I was supposed to be done by September before I went to Russia, and I had it all done, and I was like, oh man, and I was really on a roll for the month of August and the month of September, getting that shit done, and I'm so close. I need to finish it and get that book published, because it's a tell-all book, and it's an indictment on our system. Here in Missouri, especially, what a joke. And we, I mean, at the core level and the very core of power and corruption in Missouri is the Missouri bar. Everybody needs to understand that. And if you don't understand it, you need to. People say you have to be a member and fix it from within. Screw that. You want to come after me? They're coming after me now. Now, that's kind of an interesting argument, isn't it? Let's take that argument. You're going to claim that you have some sort of jurisdiction over me to come out and say that you are after me. And I haven't even responded yet. This is so new. And I've gotten this letter, and I just laughed. It's like, you got to be freaking kidding me. So you're going to come after me? Good luck. And I've gone through the ringer. You want to start it again? Bring it on, bozo. And I'm telling you, that is how I think about this government overreach. And today I'm really on a roll today. Sorry about that. But I'm going to expose this horse pucky. And I don't speak like that. I wouldn't speak like that, because I am a bad, foul-mouthed individual and have been for a long time. And when you get me on the attack, I got news for you. I will not stop. I am the person that continues. And I do that against government overreach. I do that on a personal level. Sometimes it creates things. I had somebody have a conversation with me, very important lawyer in the state that I was speaking to. And we were in a room full of, other important people in the state. And they are, geez. He goes, yeah, I remember talking to a judge about Sam years ago. There was a judge that I talked to. Well, you know what? I'll tell you the whole story. I'll tell you the real story. In 2008, I got arrested by a corrupt cop in Missouri, in Lake Ozark. Guy was a piece of crap, and he would chase me home every single night. I swear to God, this asshole would chase me home every night in a Camden County vehicle. Camden County Police Department, and he chased me every freaking night. And then one night he decided to get me, and there's a corrupt highway patrol people, I've told this story before, and I got arrested, and I fought all the way. I was not driving intoxicated. What did not happen. Was I an asshole to them? Yep, I was. Sadly, that's my nature when you come after me. When you attack me, you don't back me in a corner. I come out swinging, right? And that's just how it is. And it has created problems in my life. But I'm a very, very good person. But I think anyway. But I try to be, and sometimes I fail, But there was a meeting years later with the lawyer that represented me, whose name is Travis Noble, and he's the best attorney in the state. He teaches all the bar people. He teaches everything that they honor. He's the best, but he doesn't back down either. He does it you need lawyers like this. And I like to think that I was a lawyer like that. And they came after me for it because why? I went after the government. I exposed the corrupt asshole who wanted me to attack Greg Williams, and he attacked Greg Williams anyway, but he came to me, provided evidence to me, used the system to get me to try to attack Greg Williams too, and I wouldn't freaking do it. I wouldn't do it. And so what happened? He came after me. And his words to me personally were, "You're never going to practice law in the state of Missouri again." And I laughed at him. Yeah, you could do that. He sure can, because I sit here today with no license. My life's changed. I made, tons of money. I believe my last earnings in 2014 that I showed earnings of as a law firm, like $1.4 something million. I didn't get that, but that's, I believe that's what my tax return showed for 24. I don't remember, but it was a big number, right? And we had a lot of attorneys working for me, but if they want to take you down, they do. And they took me down, the state of Missouri, the corrupt Missouri bar, the asshole at the Office of Chief Disciplinary Counsel, who's just a piece of shit. These are bad people in government. And he, "Oh, geez, I'm not in the government," he would say. He told me he didn't work for the government. You know why? Because he's untouchable. Just like all of the Missouri bar a-holes, they are untouchable. "We don't work for the government. We're assigned by the Supreme Court." I was like, what a freaking narrow concept of that. You think the Supreme Court isn't a state agency? Just because they create their rules and they have nobody looking over them, and they give you the power to do things that nobody's watching over you, because by God, the Supreme Court sure isn't. They don't keep track of those guys. There's zero oversight on these a-holes that want to come after you. And only in the practice of law is there zero oversight. Because remember, you have three branches of government and all that other stuff. The branch of judiciary, and this is national, and I bitch about this all the time. This is a big deal. They have zero oversight except the budget. Which means if the Supreme Court assigns the Office of Chief Disciplinary Counsel something, trust me, they forget about him after that. There is no overreach of OCDC by the legislature or by the governor's office, because they are an independent arm of the Supreme Court of Missouri, which doesn't do a freaking thing to control these assholes. So you can have somebody come to you, and if they hate a particular lawyer, they will go after him. And this is what they've done to me. And they went after me. Little asshole named Sam Phillips. I hate to share the name with the asshole. I really do. I hope he's retired. His name isn't on the letter they sent me. But I hope he hasn't retired. I like to expose people like this. And that is what Civic Outlaws is doing. And we are in the middle of some pretty big conflicts of what we are doing, and I'm going to continue it. And I've done my rant for the morning, and, I want to continue in this rant, and I would love anybody to call and quiz me on this. I don't care where you're from. This is public. I am coming out, friends and neighbors. And this is Sam's coming out party in New Year's 2026, but we're coming out. And the coming out party isn't because I'm queer. I'm not gay. I don't wear gay clothes. I've done it once. There's a video of me somewhere dressed as a woman dancing to Shake That Ass by whatever group that was. Some charity function in Jefferson City when I was practicing law. I did my good deeds, I did that. I was a decent person. And to have a government actor come and say, I'm going to destroy your life, and you go, yeah, right. Yeah, right. He's absolutely right. They are untouchable, these assholes. And they are untouchable in the Missouri Bar, the most corrupt organization in Missouri. That's what they are. And, I ought to just, when I answer this idiotic thing from the Missouri Bar, that if I told you the whole story, you wouldn't freaking believe it. It is a horror story that has been foisted upon me yet again. And I'm going to have to fight for my very existence. Again. Why? Because I speak the truth. That's why. And do I have crap in my life? No doubt. Many people, like the judge told Travis Noble, and the judge was Judge Collier, and I liked Judge Collier. I thought he was rather entertaining, and I don't think he liked me because he told Travis Noble, and this is the judge on my what do you call it? My DWI case in 2008, 9, 10 that dragged on forever. And with corrupt cops coming after me, stealing money from me when I crashed a Corvette in 2006. The same freaking cops are on the site when they're coming after me. I mean, there was some crap going on. I've had shit in my life. I've had personal attacks. Why? Because I go after government. Why? Because people are jealous of other people's success. Why? Because you have assholes who go, I'm the government. And the government gets to come after you and attack. And you know what? You're supposed to lose most of the time when you fight the king. You're supposed to. The king is supposed to have some form of power. And you hope that the king is correct. But the king, with Donald Trump, has told us, has treated us to the fact. And I have my disputes with what Donald Trump does. Everybody knows that. I say what I believe. I don't care who believes it or not. I give a crap if you believe a word that I'm saying. It doesn't matter to me. But Donald Trump has made people like me acceptable. That is the point. I am an acceptable human because Donald Trump has revealed, he's put a spotlight on the bullshit of government. And he's put a spotlight on the corrupt legacy of corruption in the United States for the past 50 years. At least, and maybe even before that. The growth of the deep state, of the career bureaucrat who shouldn't have any power. A career asshole bureaucrat can take down a lawyer because nobody has any oversight. And I'm not complaining about the discipline that I was required to have for the first part. I'm talking about his threat that you will never practice law in the state of Missouri again. After that, that is all straight corruption. The things that they came to me about in the beginning, where they said in the beginning, oh, geez, you know what? I mean, I tell this story way too much, and I'm not going to tell it. I'll tell it in its entirety again sometime, this year, but because I intend to. But the basics of it all, the thing I actually got punished for is bullshit. It's stuff that every lawyer has done every day. I guarantee you, if you let me take the Sam Phillips spotlight and shine it on any other lawyer in the state, they would be guilty too. Because the rules were bullshit. And after me, they changed the rules. They knew they had to. Because, geez, we're punishing this guy for a rule. And then what'd they do? They changed all the freaking rules. But when I was doing it, I was under the rules, but they decided that, geez, his interpretation of the rules is wrong. And then they changed the rules to make those rules more narrow and tell people what they had to do. But they don't tell you what you got to do. And then when you do it wrong, they go, that was wrong. But there were no instructions on how to do it. Now the rules are different, and these assholes get to go and destroy your life. If I only had a year in Qatar because I didn't have a license and I went over there, and it's like, well, you know what, probably better off taking a job in Qatar for a year. And my brother talked me into it. It was a great experience. I loved it. I worked as a consultant and general counsel for phone company over there, pretty good size, and I have a good relationship. I would love to go back to Qatar. I think I'm going to. So when I take the trip to Russia, I'm going to try to go through Qatar, and it's usually pretty easy to do because American Airlines uses Qatar Airways, and so if you fly American, you go American to Dallas, Dallas to Qatar, Qatar to Moscow, Moscow to St. Petersburg, and they might have a direct to St. Petersburg, but that I want to do, and I want to get there in the winter. I got to go before the end of February. And so I'm doing it, but I'm missing out on the New Year's celebration. I'm missing out on the people, the beauty I want to experience. Because when I saw what the Russians were doing it's a big holiday. And in America, we don't understand it because we didn't lose 26 million people that were on our doorstep taking over our land. Then that same thing is going on in Ukraine right now. The Russians are in a fight for their existence. You will not defeat them the way that we're trying to defeat them. It's not going to happen. This is a principled war, and there's zero principle on the Ukrainian side. That principle does not exist, and it's not there. They are corrupt as the day is long. They are killing an entire generation of Ukrainians. Russians too, but the Russians are fighting for their core belief. The Ukrainians are fighting for what? We want to be part of Europe. What? Europe is a shit show too, friends and neighbors. And if that's your goal in life, you're just wrong. And I'm not saying Russia's the answer to everything, because they're not. They got their own fucking problems, pardon my French, and they have some pretty big ones. I'm really going on a tear today. Somebody winded me up, and I think it was me, myself, and I that got me on a roll. But I've been thinking about this stuff for a good long time, and a good New Year's discussion is this. You need to pay attention to what you're going to do in the year, and remember that Donald Trump, this is off the wall for me to say, because I'm not the greatest of fans. I like some of the stuff. Nationally, I like 90% of what he does, right? But internationally, I think he's making horrible mistakes, and then I talk about that frequently because that's usually my focus in life. And I talk about that. Today's a little bit more centered on what's going on, locally, and what's going on personally with me because of the events of this idiotic Missouri bar coming after me. And I'm going to be very public about it. I'll read it to you. I'll tell you what the bullshit is, and you're not going to believe it when I read it to you. But I'll share it. I'll make it extremely public. Screw these guys, and screw the government. The government comes after you, you need to fight back, because there are assholes like Sam Phillips who use the government as a weapon. And you will lose 90% of the time because those people are extremely powerful. The powerful bureaucrat needs to be stood up to, period. End of sentence. And if they are bad actors, or they're acting in their own best interests and not in the interests of what they're doing. Remember, and God love them, if you take a job like that, I don't envy you your position either, working as a government worker, because there are good people that try to be good people, and they are just mistaken. And some of the things that then they act on these mistakes. And I think it's because there's not enough training going on in the government, and nobody teaches you how to be a bureaucrat. You just become one. And you do it because you always win. You're supposed to win. You're the government. And so you take your power and you consolidate it. There is no deviance because there's just a rule written on a paper. It's like, wait a minute, I need a deviance for my water line to run here instead of here, and I need the water department to justify this, and you got to go in and spend $10,000 trying to figure that out because the water guy only knows one thing. He knows one thing. There's a rule written on a paper, and his interpretation of it is X. What if his interpretation is wrong? And you got to go after him. Fighting the government is an expensive proposition. Fighting the government is usually a fail. You don't win because you're not supposed to. They're supposed to be the good guys. They're supposed to be looking out for us. And trust me, there are people that in government that do look out for us. But that doesn't mean that we as citizens don't question what they're doing. Do you remember my show from years and years ago where I called it Question Everything? Because I'm a questioner. Do you know I was in the military? I had a friend remind me of this. That's Sergeant Question Mark. Because he's got a question for everything. And the commanders would know I was coming. It's like, well, wait a minute, sir. Do you think we should really be doing that? That doesn't make a lot of sense. And it's not that I think I'm smarter than you. It's I have a different opinion or a different area. And maybe a different experience than you have from a different perspective, which everybody has. And do I honor your perspective and your point of view? I absolutely do. But mine is X. Mine is this. And just because you have a separate opinion from me doesn't mean I dislike you. Does it? If you believe that, I don't know, that the one I like to argue about is to me an obvious, is that, a man can't be a woman. Those are just immutable facts. That's a fact. You can dress up as a woman all you like. You can cut off your penis. You can get one of those contraptions that strap it around and pull it up into your butt crack. You can do that too. And they did that for years. And those who wanted to be women, that's what they did. They wore whatever that, I forget what they call them. There was a term for it. These things pull your penis up into your crack of your ass, and you can dress like a woman, and you can hide the bulge. You can get rid of it. And dress up as a woman all you want. Fine, do it. But it's an immutable truth. Your bone structure. You're a man. That doesn't, it's not going to change. And you can't change that immutable fact, regardless of how much perfume you put on or how much, whatever women take, whatever drug they take to make their boobs big, the men take to make their boobs big, or grow boobs or do whatever. I forget. Estrogen? I don't remember. But there's something that they take that do it. It's the opposite for testosterone for men. You want to be manly? Take some testosterone. It never did anything for me. I took some for about a month. It's like, this isn't doing anything. I don't get it. But maybe I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Pardon my French. But maybe I'm really on a roll today. You get me worked up and pissed off, and I'm coming after you. And I'm worked up and pissed off over this idiotic letter I got from the idiots at the Office of Chief Disciplinary Counsel coming after me. And where do you get the jurisdiction? You suspend my license, right? And you know why they suspend your license and they don't disbar you? So they can screw you the rest of your life. If they'd have disbarred me, and I'm not disbarred, if they'd have disbarred me, they wouldn't be able to do a freaking thing about the organization I'm building. They're not going to be able to anyway, and more power to you coming and trying. But the fact is, you can't do it. Where do you get any sort of jurisdiction to come after a guy whose license you permanently suspended, and you won't give it back until I bow low to some rule-based? It's not even a rule. There's no rule. There's no nothing. It's a bunch of assholes sitting in a room that decide to permanently screw somebody with no grant of authority from any government agency. They were not granted authority by the governor. They were not granted authority by the legislature, and they were not granted authority by the Supreme Court of the state of Missouri. So where did they get the power? They just took it because they're bureaucrats with zero supervision. If you take a bunch of children in high school and you have no teacher, what are you gonna get? Chaos. And what do we have when we have no rules and no direction from anywhere in the Missouri bar? Freaking chaos. That's what it is. So that is one of the arms and one of the topics that I'm going to go after on my show, and I'm going to bring it locally quite a bit more, because the time has come to attack government. The time has come to destroy the career bureaucrat. When we were talking this past year about what they did to Ike Skelton, that was horse crap. They did to him the same thing those assholes did to me when they arrested me for a DWI that I'm not guilty of. And they forced 2 trials on me, and Judge Collier told Travis Noble, tells him, and I like Judge Collier. I always thought he was a funny, good guy. But guess what he told? Travis Noble tells me, here's what the judge told him. Went back in, he goes, why are you representing that guy about me? He said, and he goes, well, he goes, why? Well, he's an asshole. You know, Sam Trapp is an asshole. Now, that's the story Travis tells. You know, and God love him, I love Travis. And by the way, I've always got the feeling that Judge Collier really didn't like me that much. But there were a lot of people that didn't really like me that much. And I always believed that people either loved me or hated me. And it's a love-hate relationship. There's a lot to love, friends and neighbors, because I'm really, deep down, I'm a pretty good guy. But you fuck with me, I push back. And yeah, I don't believe something, I stand up for it. You say something that I disagree with, I'll tell you my opinion. That's why I have my own radio show, because nobody can interfere with me and go, well, you're full of shit. Well, great. I can be full of shit. I'm allowed. This is America. But I think you're full of shit too, and here's why. But that doesn't mean I dislike you. That doesn't mean I hate you. You know, if you won't, I don't know, at least consider, you need to honor the opinions of the other. You know how you settle disputes? Discussion, compromise, bringing things into the light, talking about the crap down below, talking about why we got here. One of my strengths in law school was what? Negotiation. I went to the American Bar Association, the National Bar, went to their negotiation competition and placed very highly. I was in the finals with my team for negotiation. Why? Root cause analysis. You get to the bottom of the problem, which means sometimes you got to dig deeper and offend people. And so when you dig deeper, people they get defensive. They don't like it. And I'm the dig deeper guy. And guess who doesn't like me and my type coming after them? The government. They don't like it. But you need to understand where you came from and why we are here in order to fix and get to the best place for everyone down the line. And our government has been unsupervised, like unsupervised children, for far too long. And there are many reasons for this. I could give lengthy lectures upon how this occurred and why. And I think I might, but I tell you what, you can disagree with me. You can tell me I'm wrong, but guess what? That would mean we can discuss it, and maybe you can convince me. You can convince me, but you cannot force me to believe something just because you say I'm right, you're wrong. I wouldn't do that to you. And you have to understand when you're that type of person that, by the way, there are disagreements between people. My religion is, I'm a Catholic. Another religion is, Mormonism. Do their tenets match? Do they follow up? Do the Catholics think the Mormons are wrong? Sure do. Do they hate them? I don't think so. And I don't think that's true vice versa for the most part. You cannot hate the other side just because you disagree with them. You might not understand them, but you should at least listen to their points of view and take all of their points of view and put them in. And guess what? Every once in a while, you'll find your individual truth. That's what makes us so beautiful. We are beautiful. Everyone is beautiful. It's based upon the fact that you accept that person for who they are. You don't change them. You can't change them. Why should you? You should appreciate who they are for the what they are and recognize the huge strengths in that person and recognize the weaknesses too. That is compromise. That is peace. That is how people live together. Everywhere. Locally, statewide, nationally, and in the world. And you don't get to dictate what other people think in other parts of the world. And I have that rant, I really went on for a while. I really did. I'm going to, because I want to get into this. One of the things that we are fighting in modern law ecosystem and in Civic Outlaws is we are going after the alcohol and tobacco control folks. Okay, and they. I don't think they like what we are doing to them. I don't think they like it at all. And I'm a member of that group that is going after what they are doing and taking government reach to the next level. Those of you who are not aware, let us get you to a key and root change in Missouri law and national law. And it's not a difficult concept. It makes sense completely, but you have to understand it to get to the core of analysis of a state agency. Okay. There was something that the United States, and I'm going to talk about this first on the United States side, and then I'm going to bring it more locally back to Missouri, because this is important, and this is legal analysis, okay? I'm not a lawyer. I don't play a lawyer on TV. I don't give legal advice. I always give that caveat to everything I ever say so that assholes in the Missouri bar don't get to come back and go, oh, geez, he's practicing law without a license, like they're trying to now. Bunch of assholes, right? And they don't. We'll see if they listen to the program. We'll see if they get it. But you cannot. How in the world do you have? I'm ranting again. How in the world do you get any jurisdiction over me when you take my license? You won't disbar me. You know why? Because then they can control me. That is what they think they can anyway. That is how you control Samuel Trapp. You take his license and you say he can't get a license in Florida, and you say he can't. I can get a broker license. I'm a Missouri broker. How in the world can I be a broker and not be a lawyer? How am I ethical enough to hold people's money as a broker, both in Missouri and in Florida, by the way, but I can't do it in Missouri as a lawyer, and nowhere as a lawyer? You know why? Because Missouri held jurisdiction. And how did they do that? They didn't disbar me. And this is the path to destroy people in Missouri, and they know it. And they don't just destroy you in Missouri, they destroy you everywhere. And I didn't know this. Because why? It's in no rule of practice. It isn't in the Supreme Court of Missouri's Rule 4 or Rule 5 that govern attorney conduct. It is not there. And it is an illegal caption of what people are doing, right? It is not good stuff. It looks like somebody's... I'm sorry. I won't interfere. It was a computer screen next to me. It suddenly lit up. And I will not interfere with it, just so you know. At any rate, they control... How do they control Samuel? They control him by keeping his license. And they think, so I can't be a lawyer, right? And which means they think that they get to keep jurisdiction over me for something else. What gives them? Let's see. Is it illegal to practice law in the state of Missouri without a license? Yes, it is. You can't practice law in the state of Missouri. So what do? If you're a guy who's got a law degree and you're a guy, they've destroyed you for life. I can't be a paralegal in some states. You know why? Because they changed the rules. And why do they do it? They go after people like me who still have the knowledge, but they have to keep them under the thumb. And they keep them under the thumb. How do they do it? They keep jurisdiction over them, and they do not disbar them. They just destroy them for life. And then that person, 5 years after your bar license is taken, and mine been gone for 11, and 5 years after it's gone, they lose jurisdiction. They can't do crap about you because you are now newly considered. You're new. You're going to be a new applicant to the bar. Now, that doesn't mean that they aren't going to do the investigation. They will. But they have zero authority to come after you for the practice of law without a license. They're not a police organization. And that's what Civic Outlaws is going into. And I really have rambled about this, and the introduction of Civic Outlaws will be coming. The introduction of modern law ecosystem is on the way. And it is something we are going to build. And, it's something that I am deeply involved in, and I'm not coming out of it. You can disagree with what I'm doing. That's fine. I could lose ultimately and have to divest myself of some of the things I'm doing. I'm still going to work with them. What they have done to me is something that needs to be brought to light more, and I'm not against it. Maybe I'll convince these assholes because the other asshole might be gone by now. The guy that was, turbocharged into defeating me, and you're never going to practice law in the state of Missouri again, or anywhere else. By the way, come to find out, he really did have that power because the Supreme Court of Missouri sure as hell didn't look into me. They didn't do crap, and they didn't do anything, and they answered and why? How? They answered the question with one word: Can Sam Trapp have a license? No. Silence after that. More silence after that. Why? Why can't Sam Trapp have a license? How can he be ethical enough to have a license as a broker and a real estate agent in the state of Missouri, which requires you to be what? A good citizen. Requires you to have a reputation in the community for fairness and good dealings, whatever those flowery terms they have out there. Same thing in Florida. And by the way, when I got my broker's license in Florida, I had to submit to them that my law license was disciplined in Missouri and that I still have it because they keep jurisdiction over it by not disbarring me. They didn't have enough to disbar me, but guess what they do have enough to do? Suspend me forever, and then make allegations against me that are criminal in nature without proof, and then take that craziness and the Missouri Supreme Court in one word with no analysis of any kind. You just say no. They don't say no. They wouldn't do that to any other license on the planet. They can't. They would say, well, wait a minute. So assume that the governor, who controls all the other agencies and all the other licenses, assume that that guy told me as a broker that, Sam Trapp submits his broker license. This is why I did it, in fact, to give the stupidity of it all, and why the Missouri bar gets to control the application to law and nobody else gets to look into it. There's zero oversight from the legislature or from the governor. The legislature might be able to touch their budget, but that's it. And the Supreme Court abdicated its responsibilities completely, and they don't even look. They just, if some asshole in the Missouri Office of Chief Disciplinary Counsel decides that this guy's an asshole, they don't have to read anything. They don't have to do anything. There's no hearing. There's no right to be heard. There's nothing. It's just a no. They would never allow the governor to do that on my broker license. If I didn't get a broker license, there would be a long list of why he didn't get it. He didn't get his license because he had a DWI in 2010 that he fought all the way, and another one later in life. And that one he didn't fight because he was, dead meat, set dead to rights on that. And we can go after him for that. But there are a lot of judges I believe, including some in Camden County, had DWIs before. There are plenty of people that practice law that had DWIs, and I was a good citizen. I did everything that I needed to do. The only thing I didn't do was what they claim I did with the assholes at the corrupt Missouri bar, with zero oversight by anybody, creating their own high school musical, groups, popularity contest groups, because that's all the Missouri bar is a popularity contest. And if you don't get in there and kiss their asses and they come after you, if you don't participate, if you don't rat out people like Greg Williams yourself, you're the problem. If you don't help them go after evildoers like Samuel Trapp, you are the problem. So what do? They write letters and tell how bad you are. They solicit stuff from people. You can find people. I mean, my God, if you gave me the ability right now, I'd write letters to everybody. You give me any lawyer, pick him, anyone, and I'll write them letters and say, if you say bad stuff about this guy, we'll give you some money. Let's do that. Why don't we do that? That is what your government is doing. Unsupervised kids. That is what's happening. And it's happening not just in the Missouri bar, it's happening in the ATC, Alcohol and Tobacco Control. Okay? So I've been involved with this case for a while. I've been doing some research on it, and I have done research and passed it on to the lawyers and people involved in lobbyists and stuff like that, because the law is in a state of horse crap right now. But what happened nationally and in the state of Missouri? Nationally, there's something called the Chevron Doctrine. And what the Chevron Doctrine said is that a court, when it considered an agency action by someone, similar to what I've been ranting about forever. Well, let's keep it to that. When they consider this action by an administrative agency, not the Missouri Bar, because they aren't an administrative agency, they're just completely unsupervised assholes, right? They don't have any oversight of any kind. There's nothing. They're just it. That's it. That's an immutable fact. But the ATC, they have the head of the Alcohol Tobacco Control, reports to whom? The governor. That is, and how do they get oversight? The legislature. Is it a crime to not do your job as the supervisor of alcohol tobacco control? It is a crime to not do it. It's a misdemeanor. You can be charged with a crime if you don't do your job, and the governor can remove you from office. That's under a Missouri statute, under 311, Chapter 311, which is where the enabling power of ATC comes from Chapter 311 and Chapter 407 of the revised Missouri statutes, right? And that is where they get their power. That's the only place they get their power. It's called an enabling statute. They get their power from the state of Missouri. How? Through this enabling statute. And that is done in the legislature. They give the power, they discuss the statutes, they make the statute, and that statute goes into effect. Why? Because they've passed it, everybody's agreed to it, and branch 2, the governor, signs it, stamps it, rubber stamps it, said, God bless you, this is the law. This now power is what the governor has to create the alcohol tobacco control. So he takes this alcohol tobacco control agency and he appoints someone to run it. And that person has the power granted to them in Chapter 311 and Chapter 407, because that's tobacco. So they have the stuff granted in 311. But what they've been doing, which is what they do, this is Administrative Law 101, is expanding. They just take other sections of power and take it. They just take that power and bring it into themselves, but they don't have it. And somebody needs to stand up for that, and I am, through civicoutlaws.com. I should say we are, through civicoutlaws.com. We received our 501c3. We are taking donations on our website. We are set, and we want to hit the ground, and we have plenty of things to go for. We are going to go after Flock and these freaking cameras. You know, it's happening. I'm doing it. If Ike doesn't want to, Ike, I hope you do. Come see me. But we're going after him. We need to go after these assholes. This is not how government is supposed to work. And Donald Trump has made it acceptable to go after these. It wasn't acceptable when I was doing it. The government is the answer. The government is not the answer. If you think the government's the answer to your problems, well, I tell you what, you're wrong. We will just have to agree to disagree if you believe that government is the good guys, because they aren't. They are not. They need to be questioned. We had founders in this country who said that, you know why you have the right to bear arms? It's not to defend yourself against the wacky Russians or some Canadians that want to cross the border, or the Mexicans that want to run up. God love them if they do, because every American's going to be armed. But we aren't armed to protect ourselves against Mexicans and Canadians. We are armed to protect ourselves against the government and the overreach of that government. That is why there is a right to bear arms, because these people were leaving the oppression. The founders of this country were leaving the oppression of other governments and searching for what? Freedom. And now we're just as bad as every other country that we make fun of, because our democracy is a sham in many, many respects, because people don't fight the government, and they need to fight the government. The overreach that is going on at ATC is unacceptable. It's unacceptable to me as a citizen, and I'm not losing my ass financially for it. It's wrong what they are doing. And Civic Outlaws has gone out, and we're taking it over because it's been a personal effort so far to date while we build. But now we got our 501c3, and we've created Civic Outlaws, and we have ways we're going to go. And there are tools that we have to attack government and government overreach. And by God, we need you to support us. We need you to fund us, and we're going after these assholes. And if you got a problem that you need us to look into, send me an email to samuelt@civicoutlaws.com. And for now, you should copy it to Samuel T at International Flavor, because I've been having some email trouble at my Civic Outlaws, and we're trying to get that set. We have experts looking into that, because it's over my head. I really have railed about a lot of crap today, and I really wanted to get to this ridiculous, nonsensical letter. And I think, you know what I'm going to do? I think I'm going to go straight to the letter. Okay, I'm coming out of the closet here a little bit, right? Because I do like to keep disputes among the groups that are, that are among the parties, as it is, but I've been involved with this, for a while. I've been consulting and researching, doing legal research, and working with attorneys, working with other people. And now the Missouri Bar wants to come after me and claim that I'm practicing law without a license. Well, screw you, and keep on coming. Let's do it. Then get ready, because I will fight you every step of the way, because I've done nothing remotely similar to practicing law without a license, because I always say to everyone who wants to listen to me that I'm not a lawyer. I had a license years ago. I have no problem telling people that it was taken wrongly, taken by a bad actor. I have no problem saying that, because it was. I have no problem pointing out the corrupt a-holes in government, because I know who they are, and I have zero problem with that, and I never have. And but that doesn't mean I'm a bad guy. That doesn't mean I shouldn't be granted a license. You think there aren't lawyers that are bad guys? I got news for you. There are. And there's assholes out there. I may be one of them. So what? You can't, that is, you are just a government employee. Remember that from one of my favorite Tom Cruise movies, was one of his very early ones. And he was a high school football player named Steph Georgevich, I think. Georgevich? I don't remember. But whatever. He was a kid playing football in a steel town in Pennsylvania. The movie's called All the Right Moves. And I love that movie. I remember seeing it in high school, and I liked it. And one of the key lines was when Tom Cruise was, and this is stupid, because why am I taking these movies? They do that to create these things. And here I am remembering it 30, 40 years later. right? This movie. Tom Cruise and I are roughly the same age. And he was a kid back then when I saw the movie the first time. All the Right Moves. It's a good movie. And it's a teacher who's also the football coach, who got promoted to be a college football coach. And he got into a dispute in high school with this kid who did some bad acts. And probably he should have been punished, but you don't destroy a person's life. And this coach, instead of saying that he was a good kid and a great football player, he blacklisted him. And I remember when they get into the dispute at the end, and this is how I feel like it when I just say, you're just a bureaucrat. You're just a government worker. That's what you're doing, Sam Phillips. You're just a guy appointed to take power, and you're stretching it. You're going on, or you're doing things that you shouldn't be doing with that power. And what Tom Cruise says in the line to him, he says he's running away, and he's finally had his say, and he's accepted the fact that his life is screwed up. His life is fucked, pardon my French, but his life is screwed. I've accepted that my life is screwed and that these assholes will never change their opinion. Well, that's the same point that Tom Cruise was in All the Right Moves, and I remember him running down the street and looking back at his coach, and he finally accepted that he's just going to be stuck in a steel mill doing work, and he says, you're just a high school typing teacher. And he takes off. Well, that's how, you're not God, you're just X. And, why are you fucking with people's lives, for God's sake? And you don't even listen to the other side. And that's my problem with bureaucracy, is they get so entrenched in what the rule says. Here it goes. Anyway, I've really rambled, and I'm not going to get to my key point. And the key point is this Chevron doctrine, which said that the Chevron doctrine usually, the legislature creates a statute. That statute is blessed and stamped by the governor. That enabling power in that statute is given to the director of alcohol and tobacco control. And that's where it comes from. And that the only power that this person has is in the grant of authority given to her in the enabling language of the statute. The enabling power of Chapter 311 limits alcohol and tobacco control to enforcing only Chapter 311. Or they also got some enabling language from Chapter 407 regarding tobacco, right? And so you have tobacco on one side, alcohol on the other. Alcohol 311, tobacco 407. The grant of power given in 311 and 407 is the only power that they have. They can't go out and hunt other statutes that say something else somewhere else and bring it in. However, the Chevron doctrine allowed that, arguably. And the Chevron doctrine said that when a judge, so now you get a dispute. You get a guy going to dispute the language in alcohol and tobacco control. That tobacco statute doesn't give you authority to do blah. It doesn't give you that authority. And then this dispute comes up, and the dispute is decided by who? The third branch of government. That's how it's supposed to work. So the governor says, here's the statute. I've approved what the legislature put forward. And bless you, ATC head, here's your power. Bing. You go outside of that, or somebody says, look, they're not doing it. They're guilty of the misdemeanor that is inside 311 that attacks only anybody that works at ATC and charges them with a misdemeanor, and that is where that power comes from. We have a dispute. We say you're breaking the law that way. We say you're acting outside of your power. We say you've created other areas, and you've stolen it from other statutes that don't apply to you, and you go for the dispute. The Chevron doctrine said back when, and this is nationally, okay, this is anytime an agency, federal for the most part, but usually they trickle down, as it is, Reagan said, he didn't say that, but that's what accuse him of. They trickle down, and that power, that stuff goes to the states too, and it came to Missouri, and I'll share that with you. But the Chevron doctrine said that when a question came up of the interpretation of a statute taken by an agency, that the court would defer to the agency interpretation. Because remember, the agency is the governor's side of the fence. Governor has taken that power through the leader of the ATC, but the governor's only been given the power in 311 and 407. You step outside of that, you have a dispute, and who resolves it? The courts, the judiciary, the judicial branch. And the judicial branch, because now we got a dispute between the legislative branch and the executive branch, because the legislature said, here's your power, and you're acting outside of your power, governor, and somebody, well, through the ATC head. And so now the judicial branch has to solve it, okay? Judicial branch had the rule under the Chevron doctrine that said they would defer to the administrative interpretation taken, as long as it was something that was, that could be that way. Okay, that was the Chevron doctrine. In 2024, the Supreme Court of the United States, in a case called Loper-Bright versus, I don't remember, but it's a Loper-Bright, L-O-P-E-R, Bright spelled as bright. And so Loper-Bright, where a couple of people came and said agencies can't do this. And that this quote, and the Supreme Court of the United States looked at the Chevron doctrine and said, well, that's bullshit. That's not right. We've been doing this incorrectly for years, because how in the world could you interpret that some asshole bureaucrat gets, they didn't say it this way, that some asshole bureaucrat gets to interpret as they see fit, and the court is supposed to say no. This is the court saying, nah, we're God, not you. We get to interpret. And so what they did is they said, now you, Loper-Bright overturned the Chevron doctrine. Loper-Bright now says that courts cannot defer to an interpretation by an agency, okay? So now what does that do? Loper-Bright is national, and it applies to any federal agency, and you can't have an agency. And by the way, this is a presidential power that's been limited as well, because he can't say to the head of ICE, can't say that, well, geez, you have to defer to ICE's interpretation of what it means to be an immigrant. Nope. The judiciary is doing that, and it has to have been in the enabling language given by the Senate, by the legislative branch, right? It's the same thing nationally that they have done, and that was done in the Loper-Bright decision overturning the Chevron doctrine, okay? And so what that has done in the United States has meant that it trickles it down. It brings it down to the state level. In the state of Missouri, our bunch of assholes, here's what they did. And this is actually a gift that everybody should know about in Missouri. And we know about it, and we're attacking the ATC on this case based on Chapter 536.140. RSMO, Revised Statute, State of Missouri. And let me pull it up so I can share it with you completely. RSMO 536.140. Look that up, friends and neighbors. Go to Revised Statutes of the State of Missouri, Chapter 536, Paragraph 140, and especially Subpart 3, but I haven't opened it yet. But we're going to get to what Missouri has done, and this took effect August 28th, okay? And this is important because bureaucrats have stolen power across the state of Missouri, and we're going after them as civic outlaws. And if you want to be a civic warrior, that website is going to be up in here and there. We're going to have all kinds of znachki, which are little things to pass out, pins, bumper stickers, bullshit like that. You can buy T-shirts, mugs, that kind of thing. We're going to have a merch page and all of that. Because what we're doing is we're attacking government, and we're doing it everywhere, by the way. And we have several that we're going to do. We're going to attack flock cameras, number one. We followed very closely that case in Richmond, Virginia, and we're keeping track of that. We think there should be a companion one here. The people should be attacking the same bullshit here that Ike got screwed. Heck, I'd like to go after the people that attacked Ike, even though I know her personally. I always liked her. But that needs to. We have a disagreement. That don't mean I hate you. That means I disagree with you. And so what? It doesn't mean we shouldn't share a drink together sometime. And or whatever. I don't drink that much anymore. But I'm running out of time though, so we got to share with you 536.140. Okay. This talks about administrative review by the judiciary's review of administrative decision. Okay, and basically it says when there's a dispute, the court shall hear the case without a jury. Means the judge is in charge. You don't get to claim you don't get to have a jury on this, except as otherwise provided in subsection 4, which we'll get to, and we probably won't. We'll probably just get to 3, and I'll ramble more about this tomorrow. They shall hear it upon the petition and the record filed as stated. This inquiry may extend to a determination of whether the action of the agency, here's the violations that that the court has to address when attacking an agency for violation of, for outside of its authority that was granted to it in the enabling statute or enabling language of their power structure. So the inquiry is into whether the violation, whether what they've done in the agency is a violation of constitutional provisions, one, is an excess of statutory authority. That's the enabling language of the statute, and this is when they mostly take power that doesn't belong to them, that is in excess of statutory authority or the jurisdiction of the agency. 3, is unsupported by competent and substantial evidence, like the action they've taken, there's no evidence of it. 1 is it constitutional? 2 is, do you have the authority and jurisdiction granted to you in the statute? 3, is this evidence that you're giving against whoever's you're claiming the violation, if it's substantial evidence? And is it for any other reason unauthorized by law? Maybe there's another statute that says you can't do it. Is made up of an unlawful procedure or without a fair trial, meaning that you've attacked somebody as an agency and you haven't given them a chance to defend yourself. Is arbitrary, capricious, or unreasonable? That's number 6. Or involves an abuse of discretion, meaning you're taking action just because you don't like somebody. That's an abuse of discretion. Sam Phillips, who's the OCDC guy. So in the scope of judicial review in all contested cases, this is what our legislature passed here in Missouri, okay? The scope of judicial review in any contested case, whether or not subject to judicial review, and in all cases in which judicial review of decisions of administrative officers or bodies, whether state or local, is now or may hereinafter be provided by law, shall in all cases be at least as broad as the scope of judicial review provided for in this subsection, blah, 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 provided that nothing shall in any way change the effective provisions otherwise granted, right? And that is the basis of what the judiciary has basically said the legislature has basically said in that section that judiciary gets to make these decisions. This isn't an agency thing, okay? And the governor, you don't get to interpret. If you do, it's going to be reviewed. And since Chevron is overturned, you don't get to do it. And in Missouri is codifying, making statute what this Chevron doctrine said. Right? And the Chevron doctrine says on a national level that, courts control the interpretation. The statute is written by the legislature, gives you the power. The governor enacts that power through the person doing this is, civics 10th grade. And the judiciary interprets. The interpretation isn't going to be given to the agency to interpret because they're professional bureaucrats. No, the interpretation will be interpreted by the courts. So there is oversight of a bureaucrat extending their authority beyond what they're granted. That's what's been done when you turn over Chevron in the state of Missouri. This is a good deal. I'm for this. And especially subchapter 3, subparagraph 3. Whenever the agency being reviewed does not involve the exercise by the agency of administrative discretion in light of the facts, but involves only the application of the agency of the law to the facts, the court may, upon application of any party, conduct a de novo review, right? This is what it was saying before. Now, okay, that the biggest change of this now comes to this, right? The subparagraph now says, in interpreting the statute, rule, regulation, or other sub-regulatory document, a court or an officer hearing an administration shall not defer to a state agency's interpretation of the statute, rule, regulation, or other document. This is powerful change that just came about. This enables the court to determine in fact, it instructs the court to determine an agency, whether the agency was acting in it. It's no longer a deferral to the professional bureaucrat. This is strong, okay? And it says that any agency interpretation of any statute, rule, regulation, or other document the court shall interpret the meaning and effect, and whatever resulted from it. In other words, de novo. And the de novo, basically, that's Latin for as new, as if it was never heard before, as if it was a new issue, meaning the statute must be interpreted by the court, right? So in actions brought by or against a state agency after applying all customary tools of interpretation, the court or hearing officer, keyword, shall decide any remaining doubt in favor of a reasonable interpretation. And this is extremely powerful. This is even more powerful in Missouri than the Chevron doctrine being overturned nationally, because it says, shall favor a reasonable interpretation that limits agency power and maximizes individual liberty. Period. That is powerful. No longer do we bend over and kiss the ass of the bureaucrat. That doesn't happen. No longer is the court going to defer to decisions made by bureaucrats. They must do it de novo. They must start as new in interpretation. Now, today I have weaved a tale and gone through all of this stuff. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed saying it and coming out of it in my somewhat disjointed, partially disorganized. But this needs to come out. People need to understand. People need to focus our movement. And our movement is to control, limit government overreach. That is my mission in life. And, I enjoy it. Obviously, I do, because I can ramble about it for an hour and a half with no script. I had an idea where. Plus, I did weave tales of woe all the way through it all. I apologize for that, but this is talk radio, and if you enjoy it, come back, listen again. I put all of my shows, save them out on internationalflavor.com. You want an idea of who I am and what I stand for? Tell you what. I'm an open book. Go back and listen to me, in my own words, talk about stuff. You disagree with them? Fine. You want to target me because of them? Great. Bring it on. You want to listen and learn? I would appreciate that. You want to correct me? Correct. I didn't say that right. You want to correct me? Fine. I will listen. I can listen. I can be convinced. I cannot be dictated to. And trust me, that's America. That's Russia. That is everything that a normal person believes in. And in the new year, I truly hope that we all go that route. I hope that we honor the opinions of other people. I hope that we try to learn from the opinions of other people. I don't have any celebrations planned for the last 5 years. I've gone to other countries, and I am not going to be able to pull that off this year. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I might go watch the ball drop on TV somewhere. I don't know, but I don't drink much anymore. It doesn't appeal to me to go out to a club and shake my little booty, or anything like that. It's not little anymore either, but that's beyond the point. But I hope you enjoyed the show. I would encourage you to go out to internationalflavor.com and listen to my rants on various topics, which are well documented. And I intend to read letters. I intend to show some ridiculous a-hole moves by the alcohol tobacco control people. I am going to share that in its entirety, and as one of the latest attacks and one of the first, in fact, the first attack against government overreach by Civic Outlaws. If you want to support, which I hope you do, my movements, the movement, civicoutlaws.com, will accept cash, will accept donations, will accept anything, because it is expensive to get 3,600 pages of Sunshine Law requests. We have spent $6,000 some odd to get that information to destroy these people and their overreach. But it's a huge tool that needs to be taken, and Civic Outlaws is taking it. Our work is expensive. Our time is valuable. Hope that you support us and bring it out. And I'm going to use this show in part as a platform for that, but we won't forget my international focus, because I love talking about those things. I love travel. I hope you listen to Damn Radio every day. You can go to damnradio.com/live and listen to it live. We have great music all the time. All the shows are on schedule, and you can go to see damnradio.com/schedule. You like to listen to any of our great content, you can go to damnradio.com/podcast and listen to them all. And you can listen to me every morning live at damnradio.com/lives from 7:30 to 9, and then you can get the recorded version on my website, internationalflavor.com. I appreciate you being here and hope that you have a beautiful, wonderful day.